Now, one of the biggest topics that we talked about during these local elections is, of course, voter ID. Now, voter ID is a tool for one thing and one thing only: voter suppression. Last year, there were only 179 alleged cases of voter fraud. Now, if you think that is worth potentially stopping maybe millions of people from voting to quite literally a handful of cases of potential voter fraud, then you don't care about democracy. Why is showing ID to vote so problematic? I think to the average person, the arguments sound quite good. You want to protect democracy. You want to protect the integrity of voting. So yeah, that might seem quite sensible, but actually, this could potentially bar millions of voters. Now, this polling data worries me, and it certainly should worry you. Now, as you can see, the percentage of people who don't have voter ID is broken down into different political parties. 6% of Labour voters don't have ID. It goes down: Green 5%, Conservatives 2%, and Liberal Democrats 1%. So you can clearly see the first obvious point, that voter ID suppresses some parties more than others. And it's funny how the governing party, the Tories, benefit from voter ID. Now, 6% is massive. So the last general election, Labour won 10,292,354 votes. 6% of that is 617,541,024 votes, which is well over 500,000 who may have not had the correct ID to vote. Now, if my maths is correct, which I don't know, probably isn't, but adding up all the totals of those who don't have voter ID would be 14%. So if we work out the percentages of each of the votes of the parties, then we get a total number of 976,612 and 50 votes, which is nearly a million. Now, you're telling me that it's worth potentially barring a million people from voting because there were 179 alleged cases of voter fraud last year, in which 62 were locally resolved, 8 are under investigation, 2 come under other, 1 caution, and 1 with court proceeding that has been initiated. Now, of course not, but it's an excuse to restrict democracy in favour for the Tories. Now, why would millions of people not have the correct ID? Surely it's easy to obtain. Why complain? Well, it's clearly not that easy if there are potentially a million people who don't have the right documents. Now, let me elaborate. Look at these stats. As you can see, that 11% of those who earn nothing and £20,000 a year don't have voter ID. You can see that falls as the income bracket goes up. So between 20,000 and 40,000, 4%. And those who earn £40,000 or more a year, only 1% don't have voter ID. So you are more likely to not have the correct ID the poorer you are. Now, ID isn't free. For some, that might seem like a small amount of money. You know, what is it, 70 quid for a provisional driver's license, over £100 for a passport? I got those things a few years ago, so it's probably even gone up. Now, it's clearly harder for some people who might not have access to that kind of money. Obviously, we have the cost of living crisis added into it. Now, look at the stark contrast of the different figures. You've got 11% on one end, and you've got 1% on the other end, which is those who earn more than £40,000 a year. That is obviously voter suppression. What this boils down to is making sure the working class, especially minority groups, don't vote, because the establishment doesn't want that. This is an attack on democracy, and any future elections won't be democratic at all, but rigged, pure and simple.